everybody, and welcome to the beginning of the harvest season. My name is Rochelle.
And my name is Al.
And we're here to talk about farming games.
Woo!
Woo! You're so much more enthusiastic this time.
Thank you. Well, I've had quite a while to become more enthusiastic.
Quite a fair amount of time. I am
Yes.
so excited for people to hear our intro episode and be like, this was 100 years ago. So, hello, dear listeners. Just so you know, this is going to mark the beginning of our, regularly formatted episodes. If you listened to the last one, that was not a regularly formatted episode.
Whatever that means when we don't have any regular episodes yet.
We will. With this, just get ready. The format's new. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
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 So, let's hop right into it. We're going to start with what we've been playing recently. What are you playing right now, Al?
Well, since the last episode, I think in the last episode I was talking about Trio of Towns, which I have stopped playing now, but I got to a reasonably decent conclusion for that. I got married. Did I finish upgrading my farm? Yes, I did. I finished upgrading my farm. I made a lot of money. I ended up... I think actually since the last episode, I ended up wiping my save. I can't remember whether I did that before or after the episode, but I accidentally wiped my save, so I had to start again.
No.
And that was interesting because I don't find it massively fun the first few days of a game. Because it starts off really slow, but I ended up speedrunning basically the whole of spring, and so I would just get up, I would water my crops, and I'd go back to sleep, and I did that for I think the whole of spring, and that sped things up about half of the way through spring in one real day, which was just insane, seeing as how I was working at the same time. Well, obviously I wasn't playing while working, obviously I meant that I was working and then I was also playing later on. So that was that. And then, obviously, not long after that, we recorded our episode. The multiplayer of Stardew came out for Switch, so I've been playing that for a bit with some people at work, which is good fun. And just today, I started Animal Crossing New Leaf, which I have never played before.
What I'm so excited about... Okay, I know this is a farming podcast, and Animal Crossing is not exactly a farming game. I need you to tell me your initial thoughts, because you're coming to Animal Crossing New Leaf really, really late. It's been out for years. Tell me all about it.
Well, so obviously I should start this out by saying that I've not played a huge amount. I think I've literally played about half an hour of real time in it. So I don't have a real idea of what the game is actually like, because I don't think I've even finished the first day, and I'm not even sure how that works. Because it seems to be that it does some stuff based on real life times, and I'm not sure if that's exactly how it works, or whether it's kind of a cross between that and your other simulated times or not.
This game is literally real time.
Right, okay.
Like an hour in real life is an hour in this game.
I feel like I'm not going to like that. But we'll see how it goes. I want to try and keep as open-minded as possible, but obviously that's not possible to keep a truly open mind. It's interesting. I like the map that it has. It's in the bottom screen. I think it's probably one of the better maps in any sort of similar game. Many maps of those types of games tend to be quite rubbish, but it's really, I think it's quite good for showing you what's important and not showing you unimportant things. There's nothing so far that I've gone, where is that, and not seen it on the map and known where to go for it. So that's quite good, especially when you're getting started in a game. I'm not a huge fan of how the world works. Like, you're walking along this kind of... It feels like you're walking along a globe, but I think it's meant to be flat, but it just feels like you're walking on a globe. I'm not a huge fan of that. It kind of hurts my...
The curvature of whatever planet you are on is intense.
It really is.
Intense.
It hurts my head a little bit, but maybe I'll get used to that.
You'll get used to it.
And I feel a little bit like I've been bullied into becoming the mayor Like, I don't really understand how this happened. Like, you literally get off a train, which, by the way, that whole train scene is really creepy, right? You're on a train, and this cat just comes up and says, I'm just going to sit down next to you. And you're like, okay, great, there's a whole train free. Just go sit somewhere else. So that was weird. And then you get off the train in the place that you've come to live. It seems like I didn't know I was coming to become a mayor, which feels like it should be important information. Because
you will probably get your answers tomorrow.
I hope so, because you literally get off the train and they say, oh, you've come here. And he's like, you were expecting me? And you're like, yes, you're our new mayor. And you go, no, what? There is no way to say anything other than a negative towards that. So literally, they're just like, no, you are. And they just ignore your complaints about it. And it just feels a little bit weird. Yeah.
I am telling you, as an Animal Crossing master, you will know tomorrow.
Okay. I also, your bag is really small.
Yeah.
There is no stacking at all. Like, I went around picking up lots of stuff and went, okay, great, I've taken like 10 cherries and 4 flowers and now I'm full?
No, there is stacking. You can make stacks of 9 of the same object.
Really? I'm pretty sure it didn't... Do you have to manually make them?
Yes.
See, that's the issue. So most games, when you're picking up things and they stack automatically. Whereas, I guess you have to go in and manually do that. That wasn't
Animal
obvious.
Crossing is a little bit of a different game. It is very, very zen. It's very heavily focused on slowing down and taking your time and relaxing. So it's got a lot of things that just literally make you stop and slow down. And it rewards you for doing that. Like, for example, if you want to go fast and you want to literally run around your whole town, you'll destroy all the grass. Like, you're rewarded for not going fast. And you're punished for going too fast in this game. And it's real time, which means it's slow compared to other video games.
No speed running this game.
You literally cannot. I mean, you can, but that involves time traveling and changing your DS clock, and it's not the most fun that way. I mean, it can be, depending on what you're trying to do with the game, but for someone playing for the first time ever, and you're not, like, trying to make a specific designed town or something like that, no, just check in on it a couple times a day. It'll be fun. You'll get there. Just wait until, like, we come and visit you. I have a whole group of Animal Crossing friends. We'll come visit you. It'll be great. It's really fun with multiple players.
Well, we'll see how it goes, and yeah, I think we talked in the last episode about what we were considering games for the podcast. Although you say this isn't a traditional farming game, I think we kind of did basically agree this is the sort of thing that we'd be talking about as well. So I'm sure we will continue to talk about it as I play it more, and yeah. So I guess that's what I'm playing. What are you playing just now, Rochelle?
Well, I don't know if you heard, but the Stardew Valley multiplayer came out.
What?
I know, right?
But it's months away, isn't it?
People, the humans of 2 weeks ago, are so confused right now, and I'm kind of, but not really sorry. Yeah, so I've been playing a lot of the multiplayer. It's really fun. I enjoy it a lot. We'll talk about it. So other than tons and tons of Stardew multiplayer, what have I been playing recently that was not Virus Busters on Brain Age?
The best farming game.
The best farming game, Brain Age for the Nintendo DS.
Well, if we're talking about non-farming games, I played lots of Smash.
I played a small quantity of Smash. It's fine. It's a Smash game. It's not my kind of game. It's a little too visually overstimulating for me, I think.
I think it's the complete opposite of the sort of games we're meant to be talking about on the podcast.
Yes, 100%. So what I have mostly been playing is Stardew multiplayer. And also, I went on an adventure recently, and I bought some new games.
Ooh, some new games. They must be exciting games that you're really excited to play.
Oh, so exciting. So first of all, I got an old 3DS game, which is a Harvest Moon game that I actually managed to miss. So I'm going to be playing that. That's Harvest Moon: A New Beginning. I also got the newest Harvest Moon title. What is it even called? It's not Tree of
Harvest
Tranquility.
Moon, yes, it's still alive.
Harvest Moon,
We're not dead yet.
this is the worst. I literally am on a page to look it up. Light of Hope. Harvest Moon, Light of Hope. It's on the Nintendo Switch.
It sounds like a move from Pokemon. Sounds like something Necrozma would do.
No, Necrozma would not stoop to the level of this game. Necrozma is better than this. Real quick, I'll tell you, I've played half an hour of it, and it was extremely painful. I literally didn't even get through the tutorial before I had to put it down. Which, I knew when I bought it that it was a bad game, but I'm doing it for you guys.
I mean, the tutorial being bad doesn't mean that it's a bad game overall, because remember I took about, 2 months to actually finish the tutorial in Trio of Towns?
Yes, but this is a different kind of bad. This is like, what's really getting me about this is that, first of all, it looks like a medium to low quality phone game.
And you said it's a Switch game, though.
It's a Switch game. And I want
Have you put it
to
on your TV yet?
No, my TV does not deserve that. I just want you to look up a screenshot of any other, look up a screenshot of Breath of the Wild, then look up a screenshot of Light of Hope. It's painful. But what's really, really getting, and I knew it was going to be a bad game going in because I read all the reviews online. So, my biggest issue so far is that there is a long loading screen, like every line of dialogue. So, going through the tutorial, what it does, it's like, oh, come over here, person I just found on the shore. And then loading screen. And then you appear at the farm. And then it's like, this is the farm. Loading screen. First, you're going to plant crops. Loading screen. And then you plant some crop. Loading screen. And it's just, I played for half an hour and I probably spent half of that time in loading screen. That's not good. That's different than this is a long tutorial with lots of story and explanation.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I put that down, and then the third game that I bought is actually Little Dragon's Cafe, which is kind of related to this because it was worked on by the same guy who made Harvest Moon. Yasuhiro Wada, I believe is his name. I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm sorry that I'm bad at Japanese.
2 episodes in a row. Come on.
I am.
Oh,
I'm trying. I'm sorry.
My birthday last year. On time.
Yeah? Well, you should have gotten that for your birthday. It's really cute.
Maybe. I've got a lot of games just now.
It's not. I feel that pain. I just bought 3 games in one day, and it was an adventure. Let me tell you. It took me 3 hours in 4 stores just to get these games. But Little Dragon's Cafe is really cute. I am in love with the art style.
It looks really nice. The art style, certainly.
It's so pretty, and it's not really a farming game, and it's not really what I was expecting at all. Because I knew something about a dragon, and you run a little cafe, and that's true. There's a dragon involved. You run a little cafe, but half of it is world exploration and collecting things. And then half of it is the actual cooking is a rhythm game. And then the plot is very strange. I'm sure it will resolve itself in a way that makes some sort of sense, but so far it makes no sense. But I'll go with it. I have a really cute little dragon named Kelly. My name is Rochelle. My twin brother's name is Goulash, because that's what happens when you let other people name characters in your games.
So, obviously, it's not a farming game. I wonder how many times we're going to say that on this podcast. But is it the pace of the game? Is it the same sort of pace? And do you get the same sort of feelings you do when you play this as something like Stardew or something else?
Yeah. It's got this very, I want to say, it's very, can I say this right? Can I say this right at all? It's got that very Yashke feeling to it of, just very calm and slow and relaxed and gentle gameplay of, I wake up in the morning and then I cook some food for my dragon and then I go collect recipes and I go collect ingredients for recipes, and I come back, and every once in a while, there's a little like, oh, here's a new character. But for the most part, it's just very calm, living day to day, and I like that. That's what Animal Crossing is like, by the way. Animal Crossing is like the video game embodiment of this genre I'm talking about. Like, textbook to the T, exactly this genre. Just so you know, that's why I love it so much.
To get it, I've got it. It's
You're like, I already bought it. Why are you trying still?
But would you stop?
All right, I'll stop
convincing me to play
you.
games that are on the 3DS. I'm so bored of that console.
No. You think you're bored of that console. An hour ago, I was playing on a Nintendo DS Lite.
Well, yeah, but at least that has a nostalgia feel, whereas the 3DS just feels... You know, it was fine. It was great when you were there, but you don't really want to go back. It's like, I don't know. There are some games that you're like, oh, this is fun because it's old. And then you have ones where like, this was enjoyable at the time, but I just don't want to play it anymore.
Yes. I know exactly how that feels. I don't feel that way about the 3DS yet. And I think that might be because the 3DS has always been the Nintendo handhelds has always been my primary console. So, like, I don't have an Xbox. I don't have a Wii. I don't have anything that isn't... I mean, I do now, but for most of my life, I never did have anything that wasn't the handheld console from Nintendo. So I'm just like, yeah, this is the default. Of course I would play it. Like...
Yeah, I guess the thing isn't that... Obviously, it was my primary console for most of the time as well, because as much as I do currently have a PS4, I don't have any time to play it. You know, when you've got two kids, it's difficult to find any time to play games, so it has to be basically when I'm lying in bed or when I'm on the train or whatever.
Yeah.
But what was my point?
I'm picking up what you're putting down. You don't like going back to the 3DS.
It just feels
going to continue to suggest games.
The issue is that I think it's because it's not old enough to be nostalgic. It's old enough to not be as nice to play as the Switch, I think is essentially my point.
It is in that transitionary period right now.
Exactly.
Where the Switch is new enough to be the new thing that you want to play on, but the 3DS isn't old enough to be nostalgic and fun to go back to. I understand. And that's what we've been playing recently. For
I suspect
20 minutes?
I suspect this section won't be as long as this every episode.
Oh, I mean, we do have, like, what is it? October, November, December, 3 months to catch up on?
Yes.
Since our last recording.
That's true, actually. In 2 weeks, how much can we actually... So, next time it'll probably just be me either raving or complaining about Animal Crossing for an hour.
It'll be great. We'll see if I get into more Light of Hope. We'll see. I'm going to try and play it for you guys, but I make no promises after actually encountering it.
I guess, right, here's an interesting thing. We might cut this a little bit out, but should we do 4 games that we have played that might be kind of less common games that people have played? Should we give a play or don't play, like, suggestion to them? How does that sound? So, Little Dragon Cafe, play or don't play?
First of all, I love this idea. Second of all, so far, I would say play Little Dragon's Cafe. I'm not terribly far into it, but I'm really enjoying it. You have not. I'm just like predicting. Great. Good job, Rochelle. I don't think you've played enough to say whether or not you would play or don't play Animal Crossing.
No. But I could probably do it for Trio of Towns.
Yeah. Play or don't play. Trio of Towns.
Play. Definitely play. Basically, the one big disadvantage is that it's on the 3DS, but it's a definite play for me.
Mm-hmm. But it's also good because, like, the Switch is also new enough that some people might not have it.
Yes, that's also very true.
There's a really good game you can play on a system you probably already still have.
Yeah, and it is a really good game. If you like Stardew, you will like Trio of Towns. It has some better things, it has some worse things, but in general, it is a very enjoyable game.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
But we don't want to talk too much because we will have an episode on it later on in the year.
Oh, you bet. I'm just like, I want to talk about everything now.
Should we just have like a 10 hour long episode talking about everything you want to talk about? to start off with?
All right. Get ready for the intro special, 35 consecutive hours of Rochelle just nonstop talking about everything she loves about farming games. It's going to be great. No.
All right. Shall we talk about news?
I would love to talk about news. Do you want to hear the most exciting piece of news I've got?
I definitely do, and I bet I can't predict what it is.
Did you know that the multiplayer update for Stardew Valley finally came to the Switch?
It did?
Wow, what a shocker.
I had no idea. It's a good thing we haven't already talked about that.
Look, I don't even have anything to say to that. You're right.
Yes, it is out on Switch just now. If you haven't played it because you don't have a PC, get on that. I guess it's also probably important to note that there are some updates to the single player as well. It's not just a multiplayer up. So if you don't have any friends to play with, there's still some stuff for you as well.
There's even things that come in the update that you can only see in single player.
Like the hats.
I mean, there's always hats.
On horses.
I love hats on horses. Anyway, we'll talk about it. This is going to be my catchphrase for this podcast. Just like, we'll talk about it later. Don't go, Rochelle. Don't get into this. What other exciting news do we have? A very exciting looking game called Harvest Life came to the Switch recently.
Now, I can't tell whether you're saying exciting in the sarcastic or the normal sense.
100% sarcastic. It looks fine.
It's not a very original name.
No.
Like, it just... Now, obviously, we need to be careful because, our podcast's name is The Harvest Season.
But that's clever.
I think that's clever, yes. Harvest Life... yeah.
It's like they wanted to call themselves Harvest Moon, but they can't.
They really did.
Is it better than our next news bullet point, which is Farm Folks?
I mean, at least it's not like Stardew Folks or...
Farm Valley. Yeah.
Wait, how did you know the name of my Stardew farm?
Oh my gosh. How? I can't answer that question. I plead the fifth. So there is a game on Kickstarter that's growing right now called Farm Folks. It's done by a company called Overgrown, and they're looking to have a pre-alpha build by the end of January 2019.
Pre-alpha build.
A pre-alpha
as a software
build.
developer, that pains me greatly because that means nothing.
Yep.
Right. No. Let's talk about that quickly. Right. I said let's too many times there. So, for those who aren't aware of the terminology in software development, you have your releases, you have beta versions, or beta, however you want to pronounce it, and you have alpha versions. Right. You sometimes have release candidates as well, but that's minor importance. Beta means, oh hey, we've basically implemented everything that we want to do, or we're close to implementing everything that we want to do, but there's probably a lot of bugs, so please be careful. Alpha means, there's probably lots of functionality missing, and it's probably very buggy. Pre-alpha means nothing, just call it alpha. Anyway, rant over.
But it sounds fancier.
Doesn't mean anything though. Like, why can't they at least use another Greek letter? Like, it's
because it's Kickstarter, they have to sound fancy. So this game, the Kickstarter for this was launched on June 26, 2018. So it's not quite a year going. So I guess it's not too shocking that it's in alpha. But that should be exciting. They look like they're actually making progress, I guess. It looks pretty cute so far. We'll see how it goes. I have minor complaints that aren't really related to the gaming aspect of it. But I don't know if you want to hear my rant about that.
I think we all want to hear it.
This podcast should be just called Rants with Rochelle.
That's a really interesting name for a podcast. I don't know where you got that idea from.
I probably 100% made it up by myself and didn't get it from anywhere else. So, the game itself and their updates look fine. I'm interested to see what they do with it. They did commit an art sin, in my opinion, in one of their recent updates on the Kickstarter, where, I have this issue with the way people draw, like, female bodies. You're just like, I don't know if I want to know where this is going.
Oh dear, in a farming game? I don't know where this is going.
In a farming game, even. No, it's not really farming game related. It's just that, like, when people draw female bodies, they're like, you can 100% tell when this happens. Because people tend to think, and it's very often men, sorry men, you just do this more than the rest of us, I want her to be really curvy and sexy, but also I want her to be super skinny. And so what they do is they, like, draw these female bodies in, like, positions that you can't physically be in without breaking your bones. Or, like, with human proportions that literally cannot exist in this world. And it just drives me crazy. If you have to break your character's spine to get them to look quote-unquote sexy, you've got a problem. Anyway, so they released this character who, like, either has a grossly misshapen body or her hips are backwards and her butt is on the front. I'm not really sure. It's very hard to tell. It's so irritating.
I think I'm looking at the same picture as you, and I don't even understand what's happening there. Like, it's not
right?
even like they've done it. How do I put this? Like, it's not even like she has, like, an enlarged chest, right? Which is what you'd normally see in these sorts of situations where they were doing something like that. Like, this is not what I was expecting when you were saying this at all. It's just, there's just something wrong with her butt.
It's like her butt is on the front, and also it's heavily weighted to the left.
You know what I think it actually looks like? It looks like she's a centaur, but perfectly straight on, so you can't actually see most of the horse's body.
Oh, perfect. I love it. It's So anyway, I care about these things and I critique them. I'm not happy with this. So this is going to have to be a real good game to make up for this. On the other hand, the anatomy for the men is fine. So I just wonder what the gender of the people doing the art is. So Farm Folks has 1,597 backers, and they've raised 92,800 and something Australian dollars. So we'll see how that game goes. That's in development.
They, of course, this is the fun, is they were estimating delivery at December 2018 on the Kickstarter. I suspect that isn't going to happen. But who am I?
They're like, we can do this in 6 months.
Who am I to judge?
We'll see if we ever get this
kidding?
game.
I wouldn't be doing this
is what I'm
podcast if I
saying.
wasn't someone who wanted to judge. Yeah. Pre-alpha a month after they were meant to release the final thing. Now, I know that these things are difficult. This just goes to show you, always overestimate, never underestimate the amount of time it's going to take.
It's always better to overestimate and surprise people with the gift early than to underestimate and make people angry because it's not on time.
I feel like they probably only released their pre-alpha because of that December deadline they gave themselves. And the thing is that if you don't have most of the stuff implemented, with just a few features to go and probably lots of bugs, don't say you can get it done in 6 months. Games are hard. Games are really hard. Especially a game that, it looks really, like the actual art, not the artwork, the actual game screenshots and videos look really nice. Like, this is a nice looking game. Don't do that. That's really bad. Yeah.
So it worries me a little, but we'll see. I'll still hold out a bit of hope for this game.
Maybe we'll get it this year.
I do like the characters, even if that one character can't exist as a human being.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the news for the week.
Great.
Do we want to talk about the main topic of our show today? I feel like we should have a little jingle here, like
dooby-dooby-doo. That's all of the news that's happened the last few months. Our plan currently is that most episodes will have a main section after the few introductory sections, and where we talk about something. And this episode, we're going to be talking about Stardew Valley.
Because we might as well start off with the best and then go downhill from there.
Wait, are you saying that Stardew is better than Trio of Towns? big news here. Wow.
I think that there are particular aspects of Trio of Towns that I like more than how it functions in Stardew Valley. But on the whole, I think I prefer Stardew Valley a bit more.
I agree. Which is why it's really sad when people get into the genre on Stardew Valley.
It's like, guys, you played the best one. Now you're just going to be eternally disappointed. Which, by the way, is the exact same feeling basically every game you go back to. Like, I played Story of Seasons Trio of Towns first, and then I played the original story. No, I'm just like, oh, this is worse.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's exactly how it should be. Games should be getting better. So
Yeah.
this is actually good. It just means
yeah,
we need
I love
more
it.
games.
I think it's wonderful.
So
We just
maybe
make
at
more
this
games.
rate, at the rate that Story of Seasons are going, maybe their next one will be better than Stardew.
Maybe. I hope so. I want all the games to be
Yes.
wonderful.
So, Stardew. Obviously, most people will know what Stardew is because if you've played any farming game, you've probably played Stardew. Rochelle, tell
It's
us
a
a little
pretty
bit about
big
it,
hit.
just for those who haven't, because I guess we have to do a little bit of an introduction to it.
A little bit. There's a really short history. Stardew Valley was created by a human named Eric Barone, I think is how you... I'm sorry if I said his name wrong. This is my thing, I guess. We're here.
No one refers to him by his name anyway, so...
No one refers to him by that name. Everyone calls him Concerned Ape. Even the little intro screen to the game is like, created by Concerned Ape. So, Concerned Ape created it by himself over about 4 years.
I hope people caught that, like, by himself.
Literally. He literally did everything. Coding, art, music, literally all of it, he did by himself. Up until the point, I think the only time he had help from anybody was when he needed it translated into other languages and when he started putting it on other platforms than the PC. Because it was originally released for PC in early 2016 and came to... I'm awake and I can read words. It was originally released for PC in early 2016. By the end of the year, it was on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And then it was October of 2017, it came to the Switch. There's a iOS app that you can play it on, which came out October 2018, which was last year. And if you have an Android, you can get over yourself and not play it. So I say that as if I don't have an Android phone. Like,
Yeah.
they were like, so eventually it'll come to Android, and no one has said anything since. So we'll see.
I mean, totally honestly, I don't really feel like I need it on my phone. Like, that's just gonna not help the addiction.
Yeah, and from what I heard from people who did play it on the phone, like, it's a little frustrating to play, because it's essentially just the same game, but, like,
Less good controls.
part of how Stardew Valley functions is you can only save at the end of the day. And so you have to be sitting on your phone for like 18 to 20 minutes without interruption, or you lose all your progress. And that's harder to do on a phone game when you're on the go playing on your phone.
Yeah.
It won a couple awards. I thought that was neat.
Yeah.
I know nothing about these gaming awards because I am a good gamer, but it got a golden joystick in 2016 for breakthrough games, and it got I don't know how to say this, a NAV GTR.
Navigator?
Oh my gosh.
Is it meant to be Navigator?
That's a word, Al.
It's like they've done that thing where you like remove vowels, but they've removed all bar one of the vowels, which somehow makes it harder to figure out what it was.
I mean, you got it just fine. I have seen this word 100 times. Anyway, so we can cut that out.
Oh no, I don't think it is actually. It stands for National Academy of Video Game Trade Reviewers Corp.
I'm going to call it a Navigator Award.
Yeah, why not?
For simulation games, which it also won in 2016, which is pretty impressive for a guy who literally created it from scratch by himself. And in the interview I read with him, his reason was that he just wanted something to add to his resume to help him get a job. And now he made an absurdly successful video game and is rich. So
yeah. I think he'd also said somewhere else that he was frustrated by how Harvest Moon had gone and wanted to make a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I think he succeeded.
He succeeded so hard. So
What I find really interesting though, right? If we look at the fact that he, there's two things I want to mention here. One, the fact that someone can be so skilled in both programming and graphic design and music creation, right, to make that game, right? None of that is just bolted on. Like, it all feels like it works so well together, right? The music is good. It's not just fine. It doesn't just help you get through it is nice. It's really nice music. It's enjoyable music. People listen to that music as a soundtrack. And the art style has become so iconic that people will refer to it as a style. You know, like
the Stardew style.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it has become a thing in itself. So a person can just be so absurdly talented that he can make music that people listen to just as music, an art style that turns into its own thing, and a game that becomes one of the best of its genre is just insane.
He is immensely talented, and I have so much respect for this guy. And
the other thing I want to say as well is that he spent 4 years making that and released it in 2016, which means that he started making that in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 2012 is now good at maths. 7 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
7 years ago he started making this game. And I think one of the advantages of the way that he designed it in the pixel art style means that it doesn't feel like it was, first of all, it doesn't feel like it was released 3 years ago. And secondly, it doesn't feel like it's been 7 years since he'd started making it.
Yeah.
Like,
I think he did a really good choice with going with pixel art. Because like you were saying, it's about nostalgia, right? So pixel art is nostalgic for everybody at this point. Like, it's older, even like younger people who don't remember the days where everything was pixel art, like, they just know it as that's a style now. Do you know what I'm saying? So like,
yes.
He's kind of created an art style for this that literally just cannot age, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's really interesting to look, like, especially since it was developed over such a long period of time by just this one guy. Like, if you go on, like, there is an official wiki online for it. And if you go, you can actually go and see, like, the development of art on some pages. Like, especially if you go to, like, the villager pages, like, it'll literally have, here's every version of this character design that ever was. And it's so fascinating to go through and look and see how everything's changed. Like, and then you're like, oh, a single human did this. Like, games are normally done by teams of humans and still take years. Like, it's impressive.
Yep, it really is.
So that's your history of the game. There have been a couple of major updates to it. I think right now, the multiplayer update is, I don't even know.
It's 1.3, I think.
1.3?
Yeah.
Is it 1.3 point something?
No, I think it's just, well, I don't think he really refers to the...
This one's just the multiplayer update.
Yeah, 1.3.33.
Beautiful.
There you go.
Before that, if you played the game when it first came out, you were very excited for update 1.1, which added things like farm maps and extra quests and items and a couple of marriage candidates. If you just got it for the Switch for the first time ever, you don't remember those days and they're not relevant. But it is something that he is actively working on. I know that in the past, Concerned Ape has been a little wishy-washy, and he kind of goes back and forth between, I'm sick of this game and I want to work on this game forever. I believe last we heard he was actually trying to hire a couple of people to maintain the game, that he could work on other things. Well,
I think it's a bit more complicated than that. So if I remember correctly, I think it was just before Christmas, or just after Christmas, I think. He'd said that he wanted to hire a team, but I don't think it was so that he didn't have to do anything. Because he has been working on another game as well. But I think he's basically put that on hold just now because he has some plans for Stardew that he wants to see through before he then continues. Think?
Yes. Sorry, I did not word that properly. As I understand it, he wants to hire people so that he has enough time to kind of do both things. Like, he doesn't really want to walk away from Stardew Valley, and he still has plans for it. But he also is working on another game, which, if I remember correctly, is in the same world as Stardew Valley, which I think would be interesting. but he can't do both as a single human. So he's like, I guess I'll hire 2 or 3 people to help me. Which is exciting because that means that this really wonderful game is going to continue to become more wonderful. And that's kind of nice.
Yeah. And I don't think he gave any clues as to what the next version is going to be. Just there is new single player content. And I think he hints that it's definitely going to be some big stuff. It's not just like small tweaks and things like that.
It's going to be fun. We'll keep you updated.
It is. Oh, yes. I'm sure there'll be news in future episodes.
Watch, there's going to be news like 3 days after we record this. Like, knowing my luck.
Well, of course, the way that we're recording just now means that if there is news tomorrow, people will hear it 4 weeks after.
It's going to be great.
They don't come to the podcast to hear up-to-date, immediate news.
Or maybe they do because they don't keep tabs on farming sim news like I do.
And either way, we're all good.
We're all good. We love you, dear listeners. Please come back next time.
So, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so that's obviously the history. I guess we probably don't want to talk too much more about the history because people who are listening probably know or don't care. And they want to know what we think about the game and what we like, what we dislike. We probably won't talk too much about how it actually works. If you don't know how Stardew Valley works, you probably don't know how any farming simulator works.
No.
I guess briefly, you wake up, you farm, you go to bed. All good.
Okay. I can give a brief overview, I guess.
Okay. Go for it. You've got 10 seconds. Go.
So, classic farming game. You inherit a farm from your grandpa when he dies.
Spoiler alert.
For the dead grandpa farm trope, which is basically the majority of all farming sims. So you move to this farm in Stardew Valley, and mostly it's about just doing your own thing, whatever makes you happy. There's farming, but there's also there's a mine where you can do mining, and there's combat involved. There's monsters you can slay, I guess. You can also
/ be slayed by.
You can also die in the mines.
Always fun when you find that for the first time.
Surprise! There's also fishing and foraging. There's a ton of crafting involved. Like you can craft items, you can craft food, you can craft stuff for your farm. It's real fun. There's a whole bunch of quests and achievements and things like that. There is a sort of quote unquote main storyline, I guess. It's very loose and it's not really, you don't have to really focus on completing it even if you don't want to. Which kind of branches into 2 different things. Either you can buy a membership from the definitely not a combination of Walmart and Amazon giant corporation called Joja. If you buy a membership to the Joja store in town, they build a warehouse in the town, and all the town upgrades and stuff you can do are gotten through a money value through that. Or, alternatively, you can go to the old rundown community center that no one uses anymore, which has been taken over by the most adorable little nature spirits called Junimos. And you collect items throughout the gameplay and complete bundles of items for the Junimos, and then they make all the town upgrades for you in that manner. And both, you can either do one or the other. You can't do both. And they both have their own little separate storyline attached to them. Whichever makes you happy. And other than that, it's just typical. Wake up, do your farming, go to bed.
Okay, I'll go to bed.
Good night, Al. That's it, everybody. No, as well as, of course, a whole cast of villagers, which have their own storylines that unfold as you get to know them, as per classic farming sim functionality, I guess.
Some of which can really tug at your heartstrings.
Yes. I will say, one of my favorite things about this game, and part of the reason I think I like it more than other farming games, is that the villagers are very real. In a lot of farming sims, the characters are often kind of they fit into a stereotype. They're a little bit cookie cutter, especially if you play a ton of them. You start to see the repeating, this is this type of character, this is that type of character. Stardew does a really, really good job of kind of subverting those tropes. So, you have the typical, I'm the pretty girl who only cares about fashion. But then as you get to know her, she becomes a complicated, real human being with, wants and desires and changes over time. Like, there's the typical, I'm the jock character, and then you find out, oh no, wait, he has emotions and feelings and a past. And he's not just the sports ball man. It makes the characters a lot more real and a lot more relatable. I can continue to rant. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think you're right. I feel like at this point we should probably say, I think nothing is out of bounds for this discussion. So if you really are worried about, oh, maybe they'll mention something that I've not seen, like maybe they'll mention a scene with whoever, and I've not done all those scenes, and you're really annoyed if you hear something, you probably shouldn't be continuing to listen until you've done absolutely everything. But I think most people, they will play through once or twice and just enjoy the few characters they get to know really well, and they'll just hear about the other ones as they go. So, yeah.
Yeah, not everybody is intensely committed to seeing every single cutscene in the game.
Yes, not everyone looks up on websites which ones are impossible to see if you don't do specific things early on in the game, are they?
Okay, look. How am I supposed to know that Sam has a cutscene you can only see in the first 3 seasons of year 1? Because you have to be friends with him to a certain point to be able to see. Anyway. I'm a big fan of the wiki, okay? It's really interesting.
It is. It is.
But yes, this is your official spoiler warning. If you don't want to know things, don't continue.
Yeah, so I think one of the things I really like along the same sort of lines is Linus and his story, because he was the first one that I kind of saw something that made me go, oh that hurts. When you go and talk to him, and there's a point where he says something along the lines of, "Please don't throw rocks at my tent. It's already happened before." And
yes,
so he kind of basically says that people have destroyed his tent before, which I want to find out who that is and track them down and throw them in the sea.
Right?
And then...
So, for people who might not know, Linus is the homeless man of the valley. He lives in a tent up in the mountains.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like homeless isn't the right word for it, because actually that is his home. And if you keep going with this story and you go all the way, and you become really good friends with him. What's her name? The builder person.
Robin.
Robin offers to build him a house for free on your farm. And if you say yes to that, he then says, "No, I don't want to. This is my home." Not exact words, obviously, but he basically alludes to know that I'm living this life because I choose to.
He's living his life the way he wants to, and that's wonderful.
And it's kind of, it's that kind of thing where you're like, yeah, you feel like, oh, I'm here to try and save you, and then you get to that point of finally feeling like there's something you can do, and he goes, "No thanks," and you're like, oh, maybe I was thinking about this the entire wrong way and judging him for his life choices.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden,
that's what he wanted.
All of a sudden you realize, wait a second, I've been so focused on thinking about me and how I can complete things in the game, and it didn't occur to me that Linus is a person who has his own wants and desires and doesn't necessarily want what I want. And that's awesome. And also, Linus breaks my heart sometimes. Like, he's just like, it's okay, I don't need friends. And I'm like, no, my heart, I want you to have friends. Like, and it's like, please don't throw rocks at my tent. People have done that before. And I'm like, no, I need to protect you.
Yeah, it's when you're really early on and you're starting to, he seems a bit kind of like not happy with how you're getting to know him, because he's like, yeah, no, I don't really need friends. And you're like, but literally, no, look at our hearts. They're building up. We feel like we're getting somewhere with you, and you're still, he almost feels like he regresses at one point.
It feels like he's definitely in this sort of defensive mode of like, I can't have friends because it just ends badly, so why even bother? Yeah. And that's a painfully relatable feeling. Although,
I still want to know, is he stealing stuff from me when I black out in the mines?
No one knows. No one knows who it is.
Why is he always in the mines? Why does he always find me in the
mines?
Why
are you always blacking out in the mines? Take some food with you.
Look. When I started, I was not very good.
No one is. No one is when they start.
You always have those occasional days where you're just like, oh yeah, oops, I wasn't paying attention and there were too many bats.
It's always okay to bail. There's no shame in bailing out of the situation if it gets really bad.
But I need more iridium. I paid for my ticket to Skull Cavern.
Okay, let me tell you. and this is not related, and I will eventually come back to villagers, but I have to say this. So, in this last game that I've been playing, my one-player farm I made to do the multiplayer update when I'm not playing with other people. For the first time in all of my, like, Stardew Valley history, I've really been using, like, the copper pan, which you use to go, like, panning in rivers.
Yeah.
I never realized how amazing and wonderful that is.
I think I used it, like, twice when I got it and was like, oh, I can't be bothered with it.
I used it like twice, and I was like, these spots never show up, why should I even bother? And I put it in a trunk. And then I came back to it this last farm, and I'm kind of regretting that, because, like, just keep it in your tools, especially when you get a fully upgraded bag. Keep it in your tools, like, keep it in your bag with all your other tools. And, like, as you walk around, just hit those sparkling spots in, like, the water, because, like, you get really, really good stuff from that. Like, I've legitimately gotten enough iridium ore to upgrade a tool. That's 25 ore of iridium just from panning. And, like, you can get, like, gemstones and omnigeodes in there. Like, it's really good.
Omnigeodes.
Omnigeodes.
It just feels like something you can't say in just a normal voice.
Agreed. Anyway, so that's my tangent about how you should definitely use the copper pan all the time.
Yay, more stuff for me to do in Stardew. Stop pulling me back.
It's so hard. I always keep wanting to go back.
I've not gone back to the single player 1.3 stuff yet. But I really want this. What's the item? There's an item that automatically collects eggs, I think it is.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember. I can look it up.
There's something like that. It just adds another bit of automation to your farm, which I love so much. Because you know what? I don't want to go pick all those eggs up every day.
But then how will you pet your chickens every day?
Look, they'll live. Look, you have a favourite and you pet it and you get perfect eggs, and the rest, they're happy. They don't need me every day. How big-headed am I to think that they just need my comfort every day? They've got lots of each other.
Whatever makes you happy. I'm not here to judge you and your farm. I pet all of my animals every day.
Well, of course I do at this point, because why not if you're going to pick their eggs up anyway?
Okay. But anyway, going back to, like, characters, like, so, like, a lot of the characters, like Linus, kind of subverts these ideas you have about them in the beginning, and that's something I really appreciate. One of my favorite things about this game is that a lot of the characters are, like, really bleepin' real. Like, not just in the sense of, like, it's subverting your ideas about character tropes from the genre, but, like, literally this game deals a lot with mental health issues. So, like, there's a character, Kent, who is a soldier who you don't meet until year 2, because he's in year 1, he's off being a soldier, and then he comes back and he literally has PTSD. Like, he has mini scenes about, like, he has a mini scene where his wife is making him popcorn because it's his favorite food, but the popping freaks him out a lot. This is not the appropriate word choice for talking about PTSD. But the popping triggers his PTSD because it reminds him of gunfire, and he freaks out. And his wife is like, I don't understand, but you love this food. And he's like, not anymore. I'm sorry. But I still love you, I guess. And you're just like, oh my gosh, my heart. And then it's also, like, little things that are outside of mini scenes. Like, when he's standing outside, he's always standing with his back to a tree or something. And when you go to the flower festival, he makes a comment about, this space is too wide and too open, it's not safe. And you're like, oh, you're really struggling. Like, in these little ways that, like, aren't explicit and aren't dumb, but are, like, these very nice, subtle, realistic depictions of, like, someone with actual PTSD. And, like, it deals with things like suicide. Like, there's hints in Alex's storyline that his mom killed herself, and it deals with things like depression. Like, Shane, the character, literally has severe depression, and you learn through getting to know his character, like, oh, you're depressed, and you are an alcoholic because you're trying to treat your depression with alcohol. And then in the end of his storyline, he eventually is like, I should go to the doctor. And you get him to, like, go get help and go get therapy, and, like, he becomes a much happier person at that point. And you're like, oh, this is a realistic depression of what it's like for people with depression. I can tell you as a fact, as a person with depression. There's, like, it feels like Shane should have an alcoholic storyline, but he doesn't, because Pam is the alcoholic of the valley.
I was gonna mention Pam, because she's an interesting one where it touches on the fact that basically for, like, the first, was it? Well, I guess it depends on how quickly you go through the game, but probably, if you're playing at a kind of standard pace, probably for about a year. She basically doesn't have a job. And when you get the bus back, I don't know whether it was just me imagining this or whether it actually does. She seems a lot happier.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually has something to do. And, not that, you are not your job, not everything about, life is about your job, but
what it is giving her a sense of purpose.
Exactly.
Because up until the point where you get the bus back, literally all she does is sit at home and then go drink at the saloon. Literally, that's all she does. And once you get the bus back, like, she'll make comments to you if you talk to her during the day, like, I'm glad the bus is up and running. I have something to do.
Yeah.
And then, first of all, I have to add the disclaimer that I really don't like Pam, because the first person in Stardew Valley I ever married was Penny, and Penny is Pam's daughter. And in a lot of Penny's cutscenes, 100% Pam is coded to be an abusive alcoholic parent. And that really, really bothers me. Like, not in the sense of, like, I like that it's in the game, because it's, like, something serious you can actually address, and I think is addressed well and done well. And I think that's something that's important to have representation of in media. But just me personally, like, on a personal level, I don't like Pam for that reason.
And that's fine. You can dislike a person while understanding their issues and saying that actually, and recognizing that something helps them and saying that's a good thing. Like, everything else ignored, that is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of a little bit my point, is that, like, I can personally really dislike Pam, but she's also done well enough that I can actually appreciate her character even though I don't like her. And that's not an easy thing to do. So, like, that's some A+ writing there. But Pam has more storyline in the multiplayer update. It's part of, like, the single player stuff. I don't know if you want this spoiler. Do you want this spoiler?
Oh, yeah, let's go for it. I'm never going to go through all of Pam's stuff.
So, in the multiplayer update, you can actually... Okay, let's start this over. So, Pam and Penny live in a trailer in the middle of the town, just north of the mayor's house. And in the multiplayer update, you actually have the option to build her a house. With the train of thought being like, oh, maybe if she has a stable job, she has a stable housing, maybe she won't be as much of an alcoholic. And then after you build her a house, you can get this cutscene with her where she's, like, praying to the god of the game, which is Yoba, saying, like, can you please help me not be an alcoholic? And you barge in on that, and she explains, like, well, I thought everything would be better if I just had a job and a house, but I do, and it's not better, so I don't know what to do, and this is the only thing I know what to do. And, like, as much as I dislike Pam, like, that's heartbreaking. And that's also very realistic. Like, a lot of people who have addictions think, well, if I just solve this one thing about my life, everything will magically be better, without realizing that, no, that's actually an issue that has to be addressed specifically. And I love that this game is that real.
Yeah, I agree.
That's your Pam spoilers. I know you came here for Pam spoilers.
Come for the Pam spoilers. Stay for the... talk about something else.
Stay for the rants.
So let's move away from characters now, because I'm sure we could keep going for hours on each individual character, but suffice to say, characters are very well done. The stories of them are great. And, if you've done Stardew and got to know one or two characters, go get to know a couple more and have your heart put in a blender.
Yes. And I can guarantee you, I have seen almost every single, like, character event in this game. They are all good. Like, every character is just well done. It's worth the time invested.
Oh, see, I just keep thinking of more things to mention, like when Gus finds Linus eating out the bins. But let's stop before we go down another rabbit hole.
Okay, let's stop. Here's something related to characters that I feel like has been danced around, but we should mention. Marriage candidates in this game.
Yeah, you take this bit.
There's a nice handful. You can marry anyone in this game.
Well, any of the marriage candidates.
Okay, marriage candidates. In this game, there are 12 marriage candidates, 6 women and 6 men, and you can marry any of them, regardless of the gender of your character. So, like, I always play as a woman because I enjoy playing as a woman, And like I said earlier, the first person I married was Penny, who is a woman. I can marry women. Al can marry men. You can marry whoever you want to. It's 2019. This should be standard. This is the only farming sim I have ever played that lets you do same-sex marriage. And that makes it worth noting.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Yeah, I think that's an important point to important thing to
And
point
it's very fun. And it's not just like casually tossed over. I mean, some of the storylines, like, for example, if you're a man and you date, emo man, Sebastian, sorry. So if you're a man and you date Sebastian, he'll make comments at his, like, 10 heart event, like, I don't feel this way about other guys, but I feel this way about you, which feels a little tropey to me, but that's fine. But then, like, there's also, like, Leah, who is, like, the artist. She's the sculptor character, and part of her storyline involves an ex of hers that is specifically coded to be the same gender as you, no matter what your gender is. So, like, if you're playing as a man, she has an ex-boyfriend. If you're playing as a woman, she has an ex-girlfriend, and it's just supposed to be assumed like this is normal and okay. And I think that's pretty wonderful for a game made in 2016 that, like, the official stance of this podcast is that LGBTQ plus people are okay. I hope you're on board with that, Al, because I just made that stance. And that should be reflected in games. And it is reflected in this game very well. And I like that. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that no matter what people listening think, even if you were to disagree about it being okay, which that's not important. The fact is that it exists and you can't just ignore that. And to have a game that would completely ignore that, it's not good. So it's important to, give people the choices that they have in real life. Like that's the point of these games.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I really like about this, having played a couple other games now, is the automation that you can do. So it's not something that I realized was unique, or it's not unique, but really strong in Stardew, because obviously it was the first one that I played. But the fact that you can, not too long into the game, you can automate your watering, and then you can there's a whole bunch of other things you can do. Obviously, there's the new thing that allows you to help gather stuff from animals. There's the Junimo hut that means, although it's obviously quite late game and it's quite expensive, you can use that to pick your crops. I love the idea of being able to automate everything on the farm. And it seems like such a silly thing because it's a farming game. Why would you want to automate all the farming? But I feel like being able to make it as efficient as possible allows you to do other things in the game as well. So it doesn't mean that you have to spend hours watering every day to then go away and talk to people or to go and mine or whatever. So if you want to farm but you don't want to spend too much time doing it yourself, you can set up these automated things and it works really well. You don't feel like there's any big disadvantage to doing them. They feel just really well designed, and they fit really well into how you already do the farm. You have to kind of change your layout, and there are obviously some more efficient ways to do it, but you can still get that done.
Agreed. I am also a huge fan of the automation in this game. Side note, the item is called the Auto Grabber, and it will automatically harvest things from your animals. So in most farming sims, the way that you kind of speed up your farming, which you usually end up having to do because as you get better, as you get more health and stamina, like, you plant more crops, you get more animals, and that takes a lot of time to process through every day. So how they normally do it is, like, you'll upgrade your watering can, and so instead of watering one spot at a time, you can water 3 or 5 or 9 spots at a time, which you can also do in this game. But, like, that's the standard for every farming game. That's just how it works. That's part of the base mechanics of the genre. But in this game, like, very specifically, like, you get sprinklers that automatically water your crop for you. And, like, you get the auto grabber, which will collect your milk and your eggs from your animals for you. And, like, especially in this game, there is so much to do in this game. Like, I know we kind of briefly brushed over it, but, like, there's mines, there's villagers. There's a lot of villagers with a lot of storyline. There's fishing and foraging and doing a whole, and panning, and, like, there's so much to do in this game. Literally, if you go through a day of this game and you don't have anything to do, you're doing it wrong, because there is always something to do. And so to be able to say, like, I can make a very nice, a very elegant, a very productive farm and do it while making time to do the other things in this game is a major bonus. And especially since that's kind of a flaw of a lot of other games in this genre, where they're like, you gotta go talk. Trio of Towns is particularly bad about this because there's 3 towns in that game, and every town has a full cast of characters. So, like, there's so many people to talk to, and you never have time because you're always watering your crops and petting your cows. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like,
I mean, even in that game, even when I had everything, maximum, because obviously you're increasing the land you have and the amount of stuff you need to do, basically, my entire morning was just watering and then dealing with animals.
Literally. And especially, like, in Trio of Towns, I'm really into the animals. We'll talk about that when we talk about that game. So, like, I have a ton of animals, and, like, a default day for me, I don't normally leave my farm until early afternoon.
Yeah.
Because I have to do all the watering and all the animals. Like, and in Stardew, I have farms where they're, like, they're huge, and I have a ton of crops growing all the time, and a ton of animals, and I can go out and do stuff by mid-morning. And that's a huge improvement. And it doesn't feel like cheating. I think that's something especially. It doesn't feel like cheating because to get those items, you really have to work for it.
Yeah, they're not like, cheap. Like, they're obviously the top sprinklers. You have to use iridium for them, which is difficult to get.
Iridium is super rare and hard to get. And then even if you get to the point where you can just buy them, because iridium sprinklers are sold by a character, Krobus, who lives in, like, the sewers every Friday. But to even get there, you have to accomplish a fair amount in the game. You have to get the keys to the sewer, which means you have to have collected, I think it's like 50 items for the museum or something. So already it's late game.
Yeah.
And on top of that, each individual sprinkler is 10 grand, like 10,000 money.
And they're quite limited as well when you're buying them.
Yep. So, like, you can't just, like, cheat your way through to the nice stuff. Like, it takes time and investment to even get to the point where you can use those things. And so it feels like you're earning the right to make your farming easier almost, if that makes sense. So it's very respectful of your time as a player. It's not just like, oh, you can do this and ignore this part of the game. It's, oh, no, you've earned the right to do other things in this game. Like,
definitely.
Your effort is being rewarded. And I think that's very well designed and very well appreciated.
Great. Well, I think we could probably spend more hours and hours talking about Stardew. And there are so many things we've not touched on. But we don't want this podcast to be hours long. For those who are currently screaming at their phones that we haven't talked about the multiplayer at all, don't worry, we are going to be talking about that in a future episode. This was purely about the game itself and the single player. The multiplayer itself is such a big topic that we were going to take that as a separate thing. And yeah, we might come back and have another talk at some point about some of the things we've not talked about, because there's a lot we've not touched on.
I'm sure we will. So if you're sitting there screaming at your phone or whatever you listen to podcasts on going, but you didn't talk about this thing I really like, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Just have patience.
And tell us that we didn't talk about it, which is a nice segue. You can find us at harvestseason.club. That's our website. You can find me on Twitter at thescottbot. That's Scott with 1 T. And Rochelle, where can we find you? You can find me on Twitter at Miss Delaney. Delaney with 2 L's. If you spell it with 1 L, you'll talk to a very nice person who I think maybe is historian, but is also not me. So Delaney with 2 L's. Miss Delaney, you can email us on the website, right? Yep, you can. If you feel like your thoughts need more than, 280 characters now? Yep. Tell us what we missed. Tell us what you're heartbroken that we missed. Tell us what we got wrong. Yeah. Please correct my pronunciation of names. And until next time, have a good harvest. Yeah.